On today's episode of Paranoid Perspectives, we will be doing a true crime episode for you guys. We're going to be diving into a case that has haunted investigators for decades. A man who is convinced someone was after him, an erratic journey across borders, and a murder that left behind more questions than answers. This is the mysterious case of Blair Adams.
Paranoid or perspective?
It's time for you to decide.
Before we get into today's episode, we need to remind you that what you hear in our podcast is purely opinion-based and for entertainment purposes only.
Please be sure to do your own research and form your own opinions while listening at your own discretion.
Let's get into it. Guys, welcome back to the podcast with Dallas and Nelly. Today we're going to be doing a true crime episode. It's a part of a new series that we decided to take on. So I think we're going to alternate every Friday with true crime, conspiracies. We're just going to keep it on rotation. And today we're going to start off with the true crime and kick that little series off that we have going. And how we're going to set this up is every week when we do our true crime stuff, each one of us are going to flip-flop. So this week, Nelly has picked out the case. She's researched. She's done all of the background information. And then it's going to be brand new to me. I'm going to be hearing everything from her. And then we're just going to have kind of a discussion on it. Questions, comments, opinions, all the things that we usually do. That's how we're going to do this. So then the following week that we do true crime, it'll be my turn. I'll pick a case. Nelly's going to comment on it, all the stuff. So yeah, should be fun.
So you'll be hearing Dallas's reactions and comments, I guess, for the first time hearing this case.
Yep.
So yeah, she still right now has no idea what case I'm talking. Well, I just told you Blair Adams, but you have no idea what that is.
I have no idea. I'm so big into true crime. And I have not heard of this case.
Yeah, I was searching around to be like, what's a good case that's like, I found one that's unsolved. That would be a good like little discussion case.
Yep.
But that's also short enough where it's like, because I'm not trying to do a 3-hour episode giving you all the facts of all the stuff that happened. Like it's a pretty short, pretty quick little case. But there's a lot of information. There's also a lot of conflicting information, which we'll get to that in the end. But yeah, I'll just start it out. So on the morning of July 11, 1996, a man's body was discovered in a parking lot near a construction site in Knoxville, Tennessee. He was half naked, and scattered around him was nearly $4,000 in U.S., Canadian, and German currency, along with gold bars and jewelry. The scene gave investigators more questions than answers. The victim was later identified as 31-year-old Blair Adams, a man from British Columbia, Canada. His death was ruled a homicide, with signs of blunt force trauma to the stomach, but there was no defensive wounds. There were no witnesses, no known enemies, and no clear motive. The real mystery is what led Blair to Knoxville in the first place. His last days were spent frantically traveling across countries and states as if he was running from something or someone. Was he fleeing a real threat, or was he trapped in his own paranoia? Let's break it down. Blair Adams was just an ordinary guy. He was 31, lived in British Columbia, Canada, and worked in construction. By all accounts, he was friendly, respectable, and had no history of mental illness. But then something changed. Suddenly, he became convinced that someone was out to get him. He told his family and friends that he feared for his life. He started withdrawing large sums of cash, collecting gold, and trying to leave the country. Whatever was going on inside Blair's head, it was enough to make him abandon everything and run. So on July 5 in 1996, Blair withdrew almost all the money and everything from his safety deposit box. Later that day, he tried to cross the border into the U.S., but authorities turned him away. He was carrying large sums of money, and his behavior seemed suspicious, so they sent him back to Canada. Avoiding his own apartment, Blair left his mother's home 3 days later on July 8. He bought a round-trip ticket for almost $1,700 from a travel agency to Frankfurt, Germany, which when I looked this up, I saw that that's like an asinine amount of money for a round-trip ticket there. There was like other routes where he could have bought the ticket for like $300 to $400. Right. So the way that he did that like just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Now, the only connection that he has to Frankfurt, Germany is the previous year he was working on a job site there, and that's where he met his girlfriend. So after he bought the ticket, later that day, he went back to the travel agency and asked for a full refund, stating that the person that he was going to visit was sick. But the weird part was when his girlfriend, was interviewed, she said she had no knowledge of him planning to visit at all. Then, the next day, he drove his car to the airport, rented a Nissan, and tried to cross into the U.S. again. but this time at a different checkpoint and finally made it through. Once he made it to the U.S., his movements became even stranger. Instead of heading somewhere familiar, he flew to Seattle, then rented a car, drove back to Canada, only to immediately turn around and go back to the U.S.
What the heck?
Yeah, so it's just, he's all over the place. Like, none of it makes sense. None of it's like, it doesn't seem like it's calculated. He's not going to places that he has ties to. He's just all over.
Like, is there a drug history?
No. One report that I read said that he was an alcoholic,
Okay.
but he was sober for 2 years. So the summer of 96, right before this happened, his family said he started acting strange.
Mm-hmm.
So he stopped going to AA. He was leaving his job site unlocked, just doing like weird things that he normally wouldn't do.
Yeah.
But they had no proof that he started drinking again. But there was no drug history.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like there could be drug history.
Like, tries to get into the U.S., denied. Okay, so I'm going to drive my car to the airport. I'm going to rent a different car, drive to the U.S., but then I'm going to fly somewhere in the U.S., drive back to the U.S., or back to Canada.
Right.
And then go right back to the U.S. It's like, what are you doing?
And also, like, you're trying to go to Germany, too. Like, what's, like, your girlfriend's in Germany, I get that. But when your girlfriend is saying that she didn't know you were coming, what are you doing?
But also, is this the behavior of someone who thinks someone's following them? They're trying to throw them off their tracks?
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
So, yeah, following after that, so yeah, he immediately turned around, went back to the U.S. After that, he flew to Washington, D.C., rented a car, and then drove nearly 500 miles to Knoxville, Tennessee, a city where he has no known connections.
So he drove from Seattle to Knoxville.
He flew to Seattle.
Okay.
Rented a car.
Yep.
Drove back to Canada.
Okay.
Then turned around and went back to the U.S.
Okay. Then
he flew to Washington. So I don't know where he drove back to, but wherever he drove back to in the U.S., then he flew to Washington, then rented a car from Washington and drove to Knoxville, Tennessee.
That's a long drive.
Yeah. So the information that I have, I went through a bunch of different sources and I combined the facts that lined up the most with all of them. Because each report that I read, which I will dive into this at the end, some of them had very weird conflicting information. So I didn't really include that because it didn't fully line up, but I will bring those up so you guys have that information at the end.
Yeah.
But the stuff that did line up in each of the articles, that's what I threw in here. So it kind of lines up the most, if that makes sense. Okay, so after he got to Knoxville, so one article that I read said he got there late at night. One of them said he arrived around like 5:30. So either way, in the afternoon, he arrived in Knoxville. He checked into a hotel, but staff immediately noticed his odd behavior. He seemed nervous, constantly looking over his shoulder, even walked in and out of the lobby multiple times before he finally paid for a room. But then, he never entered the room. He paid for the room, left the hotel, and seemed to just disappear. 12 hours later, his body was found.
Wow.
So on the morning of July 11, his body was found in a parking lot near a construction site. His pants were pulled down. His shirt was ripped open. His socks were turned inside out. He had been beaten to death with severe blunt force trauma to the stomach. Wow. Scattered around him was over $4,000 in cash, gold bars, and jewelry. But none of it was stolen. It was all, from what the investigators found, it was all actually his. And it was all at the crime scene.
Yeah.
There was no defensive wounds, which means he didn't fight back.
Right.
So investigators believe either he knew his attacker or he was caught completely off guard.
Yeah.
The case of Blair Adams to this day remains completely unsolved. No fingerprints, no suspects, no explanation.
Wow.
The autopsy found Blair was beaten to death, dying of septic shock from a stomach rupture, and tufts of his hair were missing. Investigators only discovered one piece of forensic evidence, one long strand of hair clutched in his hand. Although certain injuries indicated Blair may have been sexually assaulted, there was no DNA evidence confirming that, and no murder weapon was ever found. So what actually happened to Blair Adams?
Wow. Yeah, this is going to be an interesting one. I have so many questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Pants down, socks inside out, shirt ripped open.
Yeah.
Clearly, whoever his attacker was spent time at the scene, so I'm assuming this crime scene was not very far into, like, the public. It had to have been kind of isolated just because, I mean,
from what I read, it said it was a construction site. Now, I don't know if it was a construction site, like, right off of a main road. It makes it seem like it was almost, off the beaten path.
Right. It would almost have to be off the beaten path if he's laying there on the ground with his pants down and his socks inside out. The socks inside out, that one kind of throws me. Why? That's random.
Yeah.
Like, is that like a...
The only thing I could
Do they have any cases in surrounding areas with the same kind of...
Like almost a serial killer incident where they
Yeah,
tend
like
to do
how
the
they
same
have their
thing?
little shticks.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is if someone, for some reason, decided he needed to have his socks off and took them from the top and just pulled them till they went inside out
Yeah,
and
that's
then left
true.
them.
That's true. That's true.
But like, why do you need to take the man's socks off unless you're playing with his toes?
No, honestly,
The
and
guy
like,
had a foot fetish, or a
right.
girl.
Well, and that's another thing, the long strand of hair. Okay, so then if he didn't fight back and he had a long strand of hair clutched in his hand, that my mind immediately went to female attacker.
Oh my! A chick attacked him.
Honestly,
Killed him,
okay,
took his socks inside out. He grabbed her hair.
right, and it's like,
And that would make sense maybe why he didn't fight back. He was caught off guard, didn't think.
Correct.
Or
yeah.
he knew her, but if he has no ties, maybe it was just,
yeah.
I don't know.
And I mean, yes, the long strand of hair could be from a man. Yeah, I get that, but I mean, just the not fighting back and the long strand of hair clutched in his fist, no defensive wounds. That kind of leads me to believe that it probably was a female, and that's just my pure assumption. But that's kind of where my mind's going right now. Yeah. The only thing that I can't quite put together as of right now is the money thing. Why did he have so much money? Number one. Number two, why was it scattered around him? And number three, why was it still there? If somebody killed him, took the time to scatter the currency around him after he's deceased, because I'm assuming that's what happened, unless he dropped it, he was carrying it, he dropped it, and it fell everywhere, could also be, but why would they not take it?
It proves it wasn't a robbery, because if they were robbing him, they would have taken it.
Exactly.
Especially if the cops realized it wasn't stolen, as in it wasn't taken from the crime scene, but it also... he didn't steal it from anyone. So it's not like someone was going to get their stuff back like, oh, he stole from me.
Correct.
And in the beginning, he said it was reported that he went and almost emptied out his bank account, took everything out of his safety deposit box.
Yep.
So that's when he had all this.
And he's just carrying it around with him? Like, oh, let me just take this, like, chunk of gold with me in case I need it. Like,
which is why he had a hard time getting to the U.S. the first time. It's like, yo, you got gold bars on you? Like, what?
No, literally, what are you doing? Yeah.
That was like right.
That was spot on.
Right on the money. Hey.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. So yeah, I don't understand what's up with all the erratic traveling.
So when I was looking it up, there was 3 main theories that are kind of circling around for this.
Okay, per the cops or just people into true crime?
Just people into true crime trying to figure out what was going on.
Yep.
So there's 3 theories on what really happened, why he was acting sporadic, doing all this.
Yep.
So the first one was that he was actually running from someone.
Okay.
So maybe he was in actual danger.
Yep.
His erratic movements could have been an attempt to shake off someone following him.
Yeah.
Did he owe someone money? Was he involved in something he shouldn't have been?
Right.
And if so, who killed him and why was his money left behind? So that was one of the big ones. Like if he's running from someone, but like, okay, if he owes someone money, why wouldn't they kill him, take his money? They left it.
Right.
So that one doesn't make sense to me.
That doesn't make sense to me at all.
But being involved in something maybe he shouldn't have been, trying to run, trying to shake someone, that would explain the erratic, going to the U.S., no, I'm not. Oh, I'm going to go to Frankfurt. No, I'm not.
Right.
You know, oh, I made it to the U.S., back to Canada.
Right.
Like, it's really hard to track someone when they're doing that. And he's going to places that have 0 ties.
Right.
In my mind, if I was trying to shake someone, that would make sense.
Yeah. And this might be far-fetched, but I guess it's just where my mind goes. Is he a part of CIA, FBI, witness,
so that's another theory, is
anything.
Government conspiracy. Yeah, so one of the other theories I read, it stated some people believe Blair knew something he wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
He could have uncovered classified information, maybe involved in a secret experiment.
Yep.
Could have been a target of government interference.
Yep.
Yeah, and those all kind of make sense. Yeah, like you said, what if he was... But he worked for... I guess you never know if someone has a double life. But as far as we know, like, he lived in Canada, so U.S. ties don't make sense to me.
U.S. spy.
And, like, working on a construction site, like, he just seemed normal to everyone. So, like, maybe...
So he worked in construction?
Yeah, so he worked in construction.
Okay.
And I don't know if it was, like, part of a traveling thing, because there was a point where he was working, where he met his girlfriend in Frankfurt, Germany, and he was there working on a job site for a little while. So I think the company he worked for sent him there.
Right.
They probably just do international work, I guess.
Yeah. So his life could be contractor/contractor.
Oh,
two different
contracted. What if he's a hitman?
That's what I'm saying. Like if he's got contracted work with, I mean, there's, as you know, plugging our favorite podcast again, the Sean Ryan Show.
Oh yeah.
These people, I mean, once they get out of the military, or even people, I guess you don't really have to have military experience, but they go into contracting for all these big name companies, and you're doing God knows what under the radar.
Oh yeah.
So what if he got tripped up in all of that stuff? I mean, you just don't know.
Like you said,
and the point is to not know. You don't want people to know that you're a contractor for one of these agencies.
Yeah.
That's
the
that
whole
defeats
point.
the purpose.
It covers it up perfectly, but it would make sense why, yeah, maybe he was contracted, uncovered something that he wasn't supposed to, got into some deep water.
Yeah.
And he knew someone was after him for it.
Yeah.
That's why he was sporadic. Ends up dead.
And that would make sense how, I mean, the sporadic traveling. He's from Canada. He's going to Washington. He's going to Seattle. He's going to Knoxville. He's trying to go to Frankfurt. Like, clearly somebody was tracking him. If he was acting like that and traveling to all these different places, somebody with the knowledge to know where he is at all times to find him in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what leads me to believe he's contracting on the side of whatever else he's doing.
So one of the other theories, which does not make sense to me, is that he had a mental breakdown. Some experts who dove into the case stated that they believe he had a sudden onset of schizophrenia or paranoia.
Yeah.
Makes sense with the paranoid behavior. What doesn't make sense is, okay, people who go schizo, to me, why would they, okay, you're going nuts, you're going off the radar, something doesn't make sense, for 3 days you're doing whatever, and then you end up dead. Right. That's the point that doesn't make sense. Okay, I could see how you're doing that, they're off the radar and the family's looking for him, eventually they find him,
right,
take care of him, whatever.
No,
but the fact that you do all that, and then you end up dead within days of being like, telling his family he's paranoid, someone's after him, taking out all of his money, doing this, going all over the place,
right,
and within a few days, he actually ends up dead,
right,
makes me feel like he had to be a part of something.
Oh, yeah.
Someone was targeting him.
Yep.
We just don't know why.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you. It could be possible he had a nervous breakdown or a mental breakdown, schizophrenia, paranoia, whatever it is.
And then a coincidence, someone killed him when he was in the middle of this breakdown?
Not so much.
Because he couldn't have killed himself.
No, right. The only way I guess I could probably make sense of that one is that he went off the rails a little bit with the wrong person when he was having a schizophrenic episode and crossed somebody, and somebody then killed him in defense, but then...
Like, whoever killed him in Knoxville, he came across them when he was in Knoxville.
Right. But then, too, if that were to happen, you would think somebody would call the police because they'd be like, this man literally just started attacking me out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You know.
Like, there was nothing reported on it.
Right. That, like, at that point, that would be self-defense, so they wouldn't obviously get in trouble, so you would call the cops. Like, if you had to, like, kill somebody in self-defense,
yeah, you would report it.
You would think you would report it, but
especially if you knew your hair was going to be left at, like, it almost seemed like it was staged. He's killed, everything's spread out, and one of the reports said, like, his shoes were taken off, and one of them was placed underneath his head, almost like a pillow for his head. But, like, is that something he did? Like, as he was dying, he placed his head on a shoe, or someone did that? Like, so. It just, like, the way that it is, it seems like someone was trying to throw off the trail. Like, I'm not going to sexually assault him, but I'm going to lay it out almost like someone who is.
Right.
But I'm going to leave all the money to show that I didn't take it.
Right.
Like, they're trying to do a bunch of weird things. So the cops are, like, chasing their tails on, like, why didn't they take the money? Why is he naked? Why is he...
No, right. Why are his socks inside out?
Yeah.
That still throws me. I don't think I'm going to get over that one. That's just weird.
Yeah, it's just like a weird fact.
That's like a shtick, almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna rock with the contractor theory, I think. I think that's where my head's going right now. And
yeah, my head goes, someone was definitely following him. He, for whatever reason, probably knew something he wasn't supposed to.
Yep. Or he was using something that he did know as leverage to get something else that he wanted.
Like he was blackmailing someone?
Yeah. Like, think about it. Like, it happens probably more than we even know about it. But, like, that Edward Snowden guy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, he was on the run because he had this information that people wanted, and
it didn't go the way he expected it to.
Right. I think I'm going to the contractor theory just because that's just what makes the most sense in my head.
Yeah.
He's all over the place. He's Canada and Knoxville. Like, And then he just winds up dead after he tells his family that he thinks that somebody's like onto him or following him or whatever.
Yeah, I could see him having something he wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. Or like too, like another thought that I had when you were first telling the story is maybe did he cross somebody at his AA meetings that he got into some stuff that maybe
it had to be someone that was really into something. So you telling me some random alcoholic had the knowledge to chase this man? I feel like if you're really an alcoholic,
well, like get into like some sort of like group that was like maybe they're slinging dope on the sides. I don't know.
Yeah, but then I feel like they'd take his money. Maybe not.
Correct. If something like that were to go down and they're chasing after him for money because he owes them something or whatever, yeah, I would think that they would take the currency. But then again, too, maybe they wouldn't because the currency's traceable. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
I don't know. It's kind of like when people go to rob banks, there's ink packets in the money stack. So that way, if they get so far away from the bank, they explode. Everything's traceable, unfortunately, but that is the case. And two, like German currency, like what?
Maybe that was from when he was out there and he was getting paid.
I'm sure.
In German but also like why did he? It's almost like he kept that. It's like when he was in Germany, he was getting paid in German currency. And this is what, back in 96? So it's not like today where everyone gets direct deposit. He's probably getting a paper check, took it to the bank, got cash out, brought it home with him, put it in his safety deposit box.
Right. And like you would have to go to a currency exchange to like even be able to use that money.
Yeah. And
or
I don't know
like a gold bar. Like, let me go to Target and use my gold bar for my dish soap.
Yeah, you're telling me whoever works at Target, like, oh yeah, I know the value of this gold bar. You could check. I'll be like, bro, this ain't valid currency here.
Try again later.
We need cash moolah.
Right.
Or a debit card.
Yeah. No, literally. Yeah, I don't know. It's all very strange.
Yeah. And I don't know how currency works. Like, I know U.S. currency is pretty widely accepted.
Yeah.
Canadian and German, I don't
know.
I feel like a lot of places accept U.S. currency, but U.S. doesn't accept a lot of currency.
Yeah.
We accept our own.
Correct.
Yeah. Which now you know we're from the U.S. That's all I'll tell you.
Plot twist. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not making sense to me, and I think I'm gonna stick with the contractor. I'm gonna stick with attacked by a female.
Yeah.
Because of the no defense wounds, because of the hair. I mean, is it possible if he had a female attacker he was sexually assaulted? Maybe, but like, I guess I would be interested to see the facts and the statistics on how many female attackers sexually assault male victims.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like
very targeted.
You don't really hear about that.
Not at all.
In cases, you hear about male attackers sexually assaulting female victims.
Or male against male.
Quite often, yeah. But female attackers sexually assaulting male victims, I just feel like that's not really something that you hear about all that often.
No.
So maybe that was staged.
Unless if it's like Dateline.
Yeah, true.
But then they're attacking within their own. Like the only times
but even still though, like do you hear very often about females sexually assaulting men after?
No, it's more about like being pissed and killing their husbands.
Right. They're just gonna like pop off and just like
because women don't care about that.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe some do, but I feel like that's not the majority of. It drives men more than women.
100%.
So to make it a little bit more confusing, I'll throw in some of the conflicting facts that I found.
Okay.
So why I didn't include these in the main stories or in the main story that I told. So some of the things I researched, Unsolved Mysteries, that show.
Yep.
They did an episode on this case.
Oh, okay.
So I got some information from there, but then also Knox County Sheriff's Department has a website on cold cases.
Yeah.
And they had one on this. Now their information, I almost feel like someone was taking a paper cold case from back in the day, typed it up on the internet, and didn't proofread it because a lot of their information didn't tie with other places. Like there was some conflicting information.
Right.
And then there was like the Toronto Sun, the Tennessean, which is like an article out in Tennessee. Yep. So just like different sites. So some information is a little bit off than others. Yeah. So one conflicting thing that I saw, one report said he didn't have any identification on him when they found him. Mm. But then another one said that they ID'd him because he had his wallet with his ID in it on him. So that was like one weird.
Yeah. So what did the Knox County Sheriff say?
So they didn't. They just said they ID'd him later on.
Okay.
Let's see. I have it right here. Oh, it just says the victim was a white male, 32 years of age at the time of death. He was a
Okay.
Canadian citizen who left Canada without advance notice to family or friends. And that's one of the other weird conflicting things. They said he was 32, but this is the only place where I see that he is 32. Every other article and report that I've seen said he was 31. Which isn't, maybe that was just like a little typo, whoever
Right.
threw it up on here,
Yeah.
but nothing crazy.
At least it's not too far off.
Now, this is like one of the wildest ones that I saw, and this is also part of the Knoxville Investigator cold case website.
Okay.
They mentioned this, so I'll read exactly what they said after this. So one of the other things that I saw was Blair entered Tennessee around 5:30 p.m.
Okay.
Stopping at a gas station in the area of Strawberry Plains Pike, where his car wouldn't start because he was using the wrong key. So he was using the key from the Nissan that he initially rented that first time, and I guess he just never turned it in.
What?
But
Okay.
the car that he had when he was in Tennessee was the second car he rented, which was a Toyota. And this is the bizarre part. He refused to check his pockets for the correct key when he called a tow repair service because the car wasn't working. And the guy reported that he distinctly remembered telling him, if you drove this thing up here, you got to have another key in your pockets. And the guy refused to check his pockets. But then when they found his body, the key for the Toyota was right there.
Huh.
So that tow truck driver repair guy dropped him off at the hotel where he checked in. But like I saw some stories didn't mention that. Some just said that he went and checked himself in, didn't mention it. But then like from the cold case site, it's knoxsheriff.org/cold case homicide. So the Knox Sheriff's cold case site, they stated he flew to Washington, D.C. from Seattle, Washington, which tracks with the other stories.
Yep.
Then he rented a vehicle and drove to Knoxville. He stopped at the BP station on This says Strawpanes Pike, which makes me feel like someone just quickly typed this up because I think the other one, what did it say? Strawberry Plains? Strawberry Plains Pike.
Yeah.
So they said Strawpanes Pike.
Okay.
Anyways,
Sounds like they need like a new records
person.
Yeah.
Which, side note, I do listen to a lot of true crime cases, and one of the big things I hear is, I don't know what date it started, but from a certain point forward, everything is digital online through the police station, so it's easier to find forensics and whatever. They can kind of send it to different departments.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, there was a point where everything was down on paper, and a lot of cold cases are like paper in a file somewhere. So if they find someone or they find some evidence, it isn't always pulled forward.
Right.
Because you have to, there's like people that specifically their job is to do stuff like this. They digitize it all, put it into the police systems, and put it out on websites for people to find.
Yep.
So if that's their job, like you should be detailed, but at the same time, maybe from Knoxville, this person has so many cold cases, they're just typing away, not even auto-correcting it, posting it, and no one's like, hey, you
got a typo
You
here.
put Strawpanes.
Right.
This is Strawberry Plains.
Strawpanes.
Yeah, like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my little side tangent.
Okay.
Back to the story from the Knox Sheriff's site. He stopped at the BP station on Strawberry Plains Pike, locked himself out of the rental car, so he wasn't using the wrong key, he locked himself out, and he was unable to find the key. So he called a tow truck, made arrangements to have the car towed until the next day when the rental company could be contacted to get him the key. The tow truck driver dropped him off at the Fairfield Inn Motel to stay the night. The victim rented a room, but it is believed that he never entered the room. So the ending tracks, but so I read two conflicting things. One of them was he refused to use the key. The tow truck driver was like, you got to have your key somewhere. And then the police station says no, he locked himself out and said he couldn't find the key.
Yeah.
Which that seems more believable to me. Like maybe he locked the key in the car, couldn't find it. But then when they found his body, why did they find the key?
Right.
Unless maybe he's trying to throw someone off. He got to the BP station. He's like, oh my goodness, someone tracked me here, but it's public. They're not going to do anything. So he calls a tow truck driver so they can't find his vehicle. Like he thought there's a tracker on the vehicle.
Yeah. But, okay, so then my question is, the tow truck driver drops him off at the hotel after he tows his car, right?
Yeah.
Whatever. How does he get to the construction site? Is it near the hotel? Did he walk?
Did he
drive his car?
Because they said he just... No, because he didn't have the key. The car was left at the BP station.
Okay. So where did the tow truck driver take the car? Did he take it at all?
I don't know.
That's...
He made arrangements to have it towed the next day so that he brought him to the hotel.
Right.
He was acting weird, walking in and out, finally paid for a room, and then walked out the front door and didn't come back.
Right.
And then was found later. So he walked off to somewhere. But there's
I'd be interested to know how far the construction site is from the hotel. Because, too, then you got to think, if he's walking to the construction site, he's lugging around gold bars and all this currency with him. Like,
oh, yeah, he had all of that on him.
Like, I'm sorry, but your pockets are only so big.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not sticking a gold bar in your pocket
unless he had a big bag on him.
That's true. Did he have a bag?
I don't know.
There's just so many questions. Like, I feel like we would need to go through and read the actual report. Did you read the actual report, like, from the...
No, that was when I went to look up the actual report. That's what I was given, was just what they have on the Knox Sheriff's site. And their site doesn't have much. So it says, he was found dead at a motel under construction on Crosswood Boulevard near the Straw Plains Road exit of I-40 in Knox County.
Okay.
Which I don't know the proximity of that to...
So then, okay. So let's piece this back together. So his car breaks down at the BP, right?
Okay.
Which is off of Strawberry Place or Strawberry Pike Place or whatever it was called.
Strawberry Plains Pike.
Yeah, Strawberry Plains Pike.
Which is an interstate. Interstate 40, yep, okay.
Okay, so then he's found at a motel that's under construction off of Strawberry.
So this says so he was in the parking lot of an under construction Country Inn and Suites motel.
Bummer.
And that, in proximity to the hotel that he checked into, was on the other side of Interstate 40. Interchange across from Fairfield Inn where Adams had booked. It was on the other side of Strawberry Plains Pike, Interstate 40. So he crossed to the other side of the interstate and was killed?
That's kind of what it sounded like to me. So it sounds like the BP, the motel, and the hotel are all right.
There's a sketch of the man. That's what they think he looked like.
That's the guy that was killed?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you guys look up on knoxnews.com, they have the case of Blair Adams on here. And they have someone wrote a composite sketch of what they believe he looked like. Which, why do you need that if his family knows and they identified him? Can his family give real photos? Why do you need a composite sketch done?
No, literally. You would think.
That seems like a waste of money.
And if they identified him, then the family, should have photos of him. Yeah, it sounds like that these were the BP and the hotel and the motel, whatever, was
Holiday Inn.
Hotel, motel. Yeah.
Shout out to Pitbull.
Literally. It sounds like they were all right within each other, and all he would have had to do was cross that Strawberry Plains Pike interstate to get over to where he was found. Yeah. So it probably was within walking distance, but then still that doesn't make sense. So.
And it was also 11 hours after they last saw him is when he was found.
Yeah.
So he could have been walking for a while if he was just trying to throw someone off. Oh, I'm going to check in here. They're going to think I'm here. They're going to wait for me to come back here, and then walked as far as he could go and then croaked.
No, literally. Yeah, I don't know. And it still just doesn't make sense to me why he had all of that currency with him. Like, he's just, carrying it around with him. Like, I don't understand. Like, I guess, too, if he's on the run, I guess that makes sense just because you never know when you're going to need some cash to eat or get something to drink or whatever. But you're not going to go into the BP and use a German dollar to buy a Coke.
Or a gold bar and be like, here.
Right? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it doesn't track. I don't know. This is definitely a weird, unsolved case. Definitely leaves you questioning things, leaves room for speculation.
100%.
But because it was such a weird thing that happened 29 years ago.
Yeah, just about.
I mean, I feel like over time, too. I mean, that's the biggest problem with cold cases. They go cold.
Yeah.
There's no new evidence, nothing new surfacing.
Well, and it's hard, too. Like, when it's been that long and you didn't even have enough evidence from the jump, and especially going back to a time where we did not have the advanced criminology technology that we have available now. I mean,
even technology as far as, I feel like there's a lot more cameras out there, a lot more.
Even like you drink out of a straw and they can tell you who your grandma is.
Yeah, which is wild. Like, I could take it, take your cup, put it in a little bag, you go send it in, I'm like, I got all your info.
No, literally. Yeah. So it's just kind of bizarre.
It's widely available. Anyone can get their DNA tested now. And back then it's the internet was just becoming a thing.
Yeah. And also, did they preserve the DNA or the the
Yeah, did they
evidence
leave
that
it
they
so
gathered.
Yeah, so like in case if something else came up, could they test it again, or did they not? They just
Right.
kind of have something in a paper folder that some cop chicken scratched down sitting in the back of an office.
Yeah. And I mean too, like unfortunately there are cases where evidence is mishandled and compromised, and the law enforcement agencies don't quite handle the cases with the proper caution that they should.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a lot of questions on this one. It's just, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
The only thing that fully makes sense to me is someone had to have been after him,
100%.
and we don't know why.
No.
We don't know. We really don't know anything.
No, right.
The only thing that makes sense is someone was after him for unknown reasons, and they caught him. They caught up to him.
Yeah.
His erratic behavior wasn't erratic enough.
Yeah. I feel like this case is like you have better odds pulling the needle out of a haystack than you do of figuring out what in the heck happened here.
It's sad, but it's probably not going to get solved.
Yeah.
That's a cold case for a reason.
Yeah. And even if they were to try to reopen it, like I was saying, is that evidence good? Like, is there enough paperwork on it? I mean, clearly they weren't even spelling things right in the reports, so how are you supposed to know,
It seems sloppy.
Yeah.
And also the fact that they're saying that there was no DNA found at the scene, it makes it really hard. How are you ever going to solve it if, like, I get it if they had DNA, oh, it's unknown, we don't have a match for it, but it's sitting in the system, and they test it when new things come in.
Yeah.
Okay. But you're not going to get a match for something that's not in a system because it doesn't exist.
Right.
So if you got no DNA, how are you ever going to discover?
And my thing is, too, like, okay, they found that hair in his hand. Okay, well, we have the technology now. Where's the hair?
Yeah, retest it. Send it in.
If a case is cold, I mean, I guess it depends on state by state laws, all that stuff. But typically, I mean, anyone with common knowledge would save all of the evidence from a cold case just because it's a cold case and you might need that evidence if you ever were to reopen it.
Yeah, or something new comes up.
Correct. So where's the hair? Like,
maybe they have it, but
are they testing it? Like, are they testing it for DNA? I mean, we can pull a piece of hair out of our head nowadays and determine if we're on 500 different drugs and what our DNA history is and if we have cancer cells in our bodies. Like, we are so advanced now that if this hair is still out there, there's no reason that they shouldn't be testing it. It doesn't make sense.
Like a month ago, I did a food sensitivity test, and that's how they did it. They gave me a little tracking number, and they said, take 5 of your hairs as close to the follicle as you can. You don't even have to, like, pull it out. You could just, like, cut it super close and send it in, and they sent me back a list of, like, all of my, like, high sensitivities, mild, things that, like, my body won't react to just from the hair on my head.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, and I just, like, sent that through the mail.
It's actually kind of scary, but that's besides the point.
I mean, I made my husband do it with me, and he's like, really, you're just, like, sending my DNA out there? I'm like, yeah, but I want to know what your food sensitivities are.
Right.
But, yeah, I totally just sent him my DNA. But I'm sure they have my DNA anyways.
No, right.
They as in the government. So, I mean, if I want to know if I'm sensitive to apples,
right,
then
so be it.
Yeah.
No, it's like that's how they found the Golden State Killer was through DNA.
Yeah. And I feel like they find a lot of them that way where they start to, I forget what they call it, but they have kind of like their database where they can enter this stuff. And when new people are kind of discovered or convicted of something, they kind of like can run it through databases and then find a match.
Yep.
Boom.
Yeah.
Killer.
Well, yeah, and too, I mean, even the current Brian Koberger case, the Idaho 4, the college students that were murdered.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's how they got him. They took a I think it was a cup with a straw out of his garbage can or something, or a cup. I don't really remember.
Sneaky.
They took it out of his garbage can. He's trying to get the evidence dismissed now because
they didn't legally
saying that it wasn't lawful, right? But I mean,
that's like the case I was telling you about.
If you're a suspect in a murder, I'm sorry. Like, I'm just saying, if I was one of those parents of those kids who were murdered, I would be like, yeah, go through every trash can.
Yeah. Well, that's like the case I was telling you about in Wheatfield, Indiana, which it's kind of like a smaller case. Yeah. If you guys are interested and would like to hear about, we could always do one on that.
Yeah.
But long story short, this couple had undocumented children, so they did home births and never reported them to the government.
Yeah.
And at some point, the man I think it was like a guy at work. He admitted to him that they killed their kids and burned them in the fire pit in the backyard.
Just,
The police went, collected bone fragments, and they went, I think it was like last week, it got dismissed because they said they did not have enough evidence, and you cannot put someone in jail, or you cannot convict someone just off of self-admitting to your crime.
oh yeah, self-admission.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can't just like go in and be like, hey, I did this. So they don't have enough evidence. He told this guy, the guy was like, hey, this is what they told me. And they're like, okay, well, and then they had so much time. I think this happened in October that it all came out. They got arrested. And then last week, so like January 29th, I think they
Yeah.
dismissed it because they didn't have enough evidence on it.
Wow.
Doesn't mean they can't try and convict him again.
Right.
But as of right now, they get to walk scot-free because they said they don't have enough evidence.
Jeez. Like, you could have false admissions, which does happen. Okay, I get it, but
Yeah. And maybe it depends on the state.
I mean, if they found the freaking bone fragments in the yard, like, bro, what?
And maybe they're still testing it, because one of the things that I read was it is possible that maybe it's not human bones. But
Yeah.
like, why would you? They collected this back in October. It's January. You're not going to know in that amount of time what if they're human bones or animal bones or.
No, literally. Yeah, that's weird.
But that's a story we could dive into another day if you guys want to hear it.
Yeah.
How did I get on that
there's
tangent?
tons of cases like that.
Yeah.
I mean, like, there are, like, it is crazy how many unsolved and unjustified cases there are like that.
But then if you really get into true crime, I feel like there's also the cases where there's so many people wrongly convicted.
Correct.
And they didn't do it. And sometimes they don't find out till 20-something years later, find the actual killer.
Yeah.
There was one story, which this will be my last tangent. When I really got into true crime, I read this one story of this guy happened to live in a road, middle of nowhere.
Yep.
This car was driving, seemingly disappeared. They never found the person. The last place that made sense was this guy's house. The cops went up, arrested this man, and put him in jail for the disappearance of this girl. And I don't remember what evidence. There was something found near his house, and the guy was like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And they were like, "No, you did something to this girl." And for some reason, they had enough evidence where they were able to convict him.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I think it was 20 years. There was a pond not far from his house.
Yep.
Someone crashed. They did a rescue mission. When they found that person, they found the other girl's car and her body in it.
Oh.
So this girl drove off into this pond that they never searched.
Yeah.
She was in there, and this guy went to jail for 20 years for it. And then basically they let him off, and it's like, "Oh, sorry. And here's your freedom." It's like, what? You just took 20 years of this guy's life because some girl crashed in a pond?
No, literally sue the ever-living crap
But
out
you
of
can't,
them.
that's all you can do. You can't get your time back.
No, you can't get that time back.
That's another case we should dive into. But
yeah, that's
we
pretty
could
good.
do cases for days.
No, right.
So many.
There's so many. Yeah. No, that was a good case. That was a good pick for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I like that one a lot. And I had no background info on it, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It was a wild little out there one, but I thought it was a good discussion, one good
yeah,
start off our series.
Definitely out there.
Yeah.
I'm
Wild.
I would be curious to follow up on this one to see if any progression has been made in the next coming however many years or whatever, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, no, that was
Keep a
a good
lookout.
one. All
If
right.
you guys have any other cases that you have, I guess, suggestions on cases that you guys think that we should do, you'd be interested in hearing,
Yeah.
good discussion cases, even something current.
Yeah.
Feel free to write in. Our last episode, we gave out our email, but we can do that again.
Paranoid Perspectives 25@gmail.com.
Yes.
All one word, 25@gmail. And
Feel free to write in, give us guys opinions, cases.
Yep. We'd love to hear from you guys. And we kind of want to hear what you guys think about this case. What are your thoughts and what are your theories? I think that'd be a fun little extension of the true crime episodes, just to hear what you guys have to say. If you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. If
I think on Spotify you can leave comments too.
you might be able to. I don't know.
I'm not a Spotify
I'm not very
person.
tech savvy. I'm going to be honest.
I'm an Apple podcast person.
Yeah.
So
And I'm a YouTube. I
Okay.
know YouTube. So
there we go.
yeah. So drop us a comment. Leave us an email. on
Like, subscribe.
Yep. All the things. Do all the things. We appreciate your guys' support. We're still real excited to get this show up and running and consistent and bring you guys all the things that you want to hear, all the things we want to talk about. And yeah, it's been fun so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been having a great time doing this. I love this.
Honestly, same. Yeah.
It's just like our normal conversations, but just throwing a mic out there.
Right. We had just have a microphone in front of our face, which
Yeah.
is fun. So All right. Well, let's wrap this one up. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later.
See ya.
Bye. That's a wrap.
That's a wrap.